November 2012. Sweden are playing England in a friendly nobody outside Scandinavia was supposed to remember. In the 78th minute, a ball drops out of the sky 30 yards from goal. Zlatan Ibrahimović is standing side-on to it, his back almost fully turned to the net. A normal striker takes a touch, sats himself, waits for the ball to come down properly. Ibrahimović launches himself backward into the air instead, connects with a scissor kick at a height most defenders couldn't reach with their hands, and buries it past Joe Hart from 30 yards out. It's still considered one of the greatest goals ever scored. It wasn't luck, and it probably wasn't pure improvisation either. Ibrahimović had spent years training a discipline that taught him to control his body in ways most footballers never had to do long before anyone paid him to do it on a football pitch. To understand how that goal happened, you have to go back to a neighborhood most of Sweden preferred not to talk about. Zlatan Ibrahimović was born in Malmö in 1981 to a Bosnian father and a Croatian mother who divorced when he was 2. He grew up bouncing between both households in Rosengård, one of the poorest, most heavily immigrant neighborhoods in the country. By his own account, he was a bicycle thief and a school bully long before he was anything resembling a footballer. At 15, he was ready to quit the game entirely and go work at the docks. It took his own manager talking him out of it just to keep him in football at all. Somewhere in the middle of that childhood, a young Zlatan started training at a Taekwondo club in Malmö. He wasn't dabbling. By the time he was 17, he'd earned a black belt. Most footballers with an interesting hobby leave it behind once the career takes over. Ibrahimović never did, and the connection shows up in the goals that made him famous. The back-heel volley at Bastia, the scissor kick at Monaco, a back-heel chop at Toronto FC at 36 years old, a goal he later called one of his favorites of his career. None of it looked rehearsed. It looked like a body that had spent years being trained to move in ways a football pitch had simply never asked of it before. He made his professional debut for Malmö FF in 1999 and helped drag the club out of the second division. 2 years later, Ajax paid what was then a Dutch transfer record to bring him to Amsterdam. And this is where the fear actually started, because it was never really about the goals first. It was about the fact that nobody in that Ajax dressing room, or in any dressing room he ever walked into afterwards, could say with any confidence what he was going to do next.
Think about what a defender usually prepares for. You can prepare for a fast striker. You time your positioning around his pace. You can prepare for a strong one. You get tight and use your body early. You can prepare for a runner in behind. You drop your line and watch the space over your shoulder. Ibrahimović was all of those things at once, and then, on top of that, capable of something that didn't fit into any of those categories at all. He could beat you with his feet in the build-up, outmuscle you in the box, or suddenly attempt a finish that shouldn't have been physically possible from that angle at that height. That was the actual problem for the players marking him. You cannot scout a move that isn't in anyone's scouting report. The fear wasn't simply that Zlatan was fast or strong. It was that preparation itself could stop being useful against him. That unpredictability wasn't only aimed at opponents. His own teammates have told stories over the years that have almost nothing to do with his finishing. He once caught his friend and Italy international Antonio Cassano square in the head with a kick during a training session, the kind of moment that ends most friendships and somehow didn't end theirs. Years later, at Manchester United, a heated exchange with Romelu Lukaku during a Europa League tie turned personal fast enough to make headlines in 2 countries. Ibrahimović was never the kind of player who backed down from confrontation, on the pitch or off it, and an unspoken rule formed across most of Europe: whatever you do, don't give him a reason. By the time his career peaked, that reputation had followed him across 5 different countries: Sweden, the Netherlands, Italy at 3 separate clubs, Spain with Barcelona, France, where 4 consecutive domestic titles built almost entirely around him made him the club's all-time record goalscorer.
He tore his ACL at Manchester United at 35 years old and came back playing at a level that shouldn't have been possible for a man that age. Through it all, one trophy stayed permanently out of reach. Ibrahimović never won the Champions League. Not at Ajax, not at Juventus, not at Inter, not at Barcelona the year before he left when the trophy was lifted by the players who replaced him, not at Milan, not at PSG, despite 4 straight domestic titles built almost entirely around him. It's the one line missing from a resume that otherwise reads like nobody would believe it, and it's the clearest proof that even a player capable of the physically impossible couldn't outkick the one trophy European football seemed determined never to hand him. In 2010, during his first spell at AC Milan, the Italian Taekwondo Federation gave Ibrahimović an honorary black belt of his own, presented by Mauro Sarmento, an Olympic silver medalist for Italy. It was a fitting acknowledgement of the sport that had become so intertwined with the way he played, because by then a generation of defenders had learned the same lesson, whether anyone ever put it into words or not. Never turn your back, never assume he's finished moving, never give him room to leave the ground.
He retired in 2023, more than 3 decades after a child in Rosengård was handed his first pair of boots. The bicycle kick against England was never really an accident of athleticism. It was a black belt, years removed from his last grading, still finishing the way his body had been trained to as a kid who wasn't supposed to make it out of Rosengård at all.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, commenting below, and sharing it with other football fans. Thank you for watching.